Learn how to learn.
A special feature. Interview with the president of the Egghead Club. This month, Teen Zine features an interview with Kyungtae Lee, president of the Egghead Club. The club consists of students who didn't used to do well on tests, but have greatly improved their test scores with their own study methods. Its members provide other students with their studying tips. Could you please briefly introduce yourself to our readers?
Sure. I'm a senior at Cheil High School. I used to have a hard time studying, but now I enjoy studying and have confidence in taking tests. I'm glad to share my studying tips with the readers.
You said that you used to have a hard time studying. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, I think I was considered a poor student. I couldn't remember well what my teachers taught me in class. Besides, I lacked concentration skills. I couldn't even sit still for an hour to study because I got bored easily.
Then, what made you change and enjoy studying?
2 years ago, I happened to read an article about learning styles. The article said, everyone has different learning styles, so you need to develop your own learning strategies. I followed the advice, and now here I am.
So, you discovered your own learning styles and developed new study habits?
Exactly. I found that I am a kinesthetic learner as well as a group learner. Kinesthetic learners rely heavily on motion to learn. To memorize something, I move around while reading aloud. When I can't move around, I close my eyes and write words in the air with my finger. Another characteristic of kinesthetic learners is that they find it hard to sit still for long periods of time. So while studying at home, I take frequent breaks. I usually take a 3 to 5 minute break after 20 to 30 minutes of study.
Interesting. You said that you're also a group learner.
That's right. I prefer discussing unclear things with others rather than trying to figure them out by myself. I found out that that's a characteristic of group learners. Group learners learn more easily when they study with other people. So I made a study group, and now I study with my friends. I think I learn better that way.
Okay, I'm afraid it's time to wrap up. Any final piece of advice for our readers?
Like I said, we all learn in different ways. No single method works for everyone. You have to first discover what kind of learner you are and then develop your own learning strategies. To do that, the first thing you have to do is to go through the learning style test. So why don't you give it a shot? It's worth trying.
I'm sure our readers will benefit from it. Thank you for your time. Learning style preferences. Below are the descriptions of the characteristics of some major learning style preferences. They will give you useful information about ways in which you learn best. Visual learners. To remember a phone number, you may see in your mind's eye the number on the piece of paper, picturing it exactly as you write it down. You may be good at spelling but easily forget names. While in class, you like to keep an eye on the teacher by sitting in the front. You learn well from seeing words. You remember and understand information better when you read it. You take notes of lectures if you want to remember the information effectively. Why don't you? Make an outline of key points in charts. Copy what's on the board. Highlight, circle, or underline important points. Auditory learners. To memorize a phone number, you will say it out loud and then remember how it sounded to recall it. You are good at explaining things. You are also a good language learner. You learn best by listening to explanations. You may remember information by reading aloud or moving your lips as you read. You benefit from listening to audio files, lectures, and class discussions. You learn better by using a voice recorder to practice and teaching other students. Why don't you? Teach other students. Repeat facts with your eyes closed. Kinesthetic learners. To memorize a phone number, you may remember the pattern of your fingers as you press the numbers. You are good at sports but not great at spelling. You can't sit still for long periods of time. You learn best by experience, by being physically involved in classroom activities. You remember information well when you touch and work with materials. You learn better by actively participating in experiments, field trips, and role-playing. Why don't you? Take a break regularly. Use flashcards. Group learners. You learn more easily when you study with others. Group work helps you learn and understand new information. You will be more successful in completing a project when you work with others. Why don't you? Study with others. Participate in group discussions. Individual learners. You learn and think better when you study alone. When you work by yourself, you remember information and understand new materials best, and you can make better progress in learning. Why don't you? Study alone in a quiet place. Use computers or media players.